Deep in the misty hills of a forgotten village stood St.orans Church, an ancient stone structure surrounded by crumbling gravestones. The locals whispered of its cursed bell tower, which hadn't tolled in over a century. According to legend, the last time the bells rang, they summoned something that should never have been awakened. Maria, a young historian, had heard of the church's dark reputation and was determined to uncover the truth. She arrived in the village one stormy evening, carrying only a flashlight, her notebook, and an old map of the church grounds. The villagers avoided her questions, their faces pale at the mention of st.orans. One old man finally relented, warning her, "Don't go near the bell tower at night. The dead don't rest there." Ignoring his cryptic advice, Maria set off toward the church at dusk. The overgrown path was lined with gnarled trees whose branches clawed at the sky. As she approached the church, a cold wind howled through the empty windows, and the air grew unnaturally still. Inside, the church was a ruin. Pews were splintered, and the altar was draped in cobwebs. But the bell tower loomed above her, casting long shadows in the fading light. Maria climbed the spiral staircase, her footsteps echoing ominously. At the top, she found the massive bell, covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Curious, Maria reached out to touch the bell. The moment her fingers brushed the cold metal, a deep, resonant chime rang out. The sound vibrated through her bones, louder and louder, until it seemed to fill the entire world. And then, silence. Maria stumbled back, gasping, as the shadows in the room began to move. They coalesced into a tall, robed figure with hollow eyes that burned like embers. Its voice was a low growl. "You have woken me." Terrified, Maria fled down the stairs, but the church was no longer empty. The pews were filled with silent figures, their faces pale and eyes lifeless. They turned to her as she ran, their heads moving in eerie unison. The old gravestones outside were cracked open, and skeletal hands clawed at the earth, pulling themselves free. Maria screamed as the robed figure emerged from the tower, its bony hand pointing at her. The church bells tolled again, and the villagers heard them echo through the hills for the first time in a century. When they arrived at St.orans at dawn, the church was empty. The bell tower was silent, and Maria was nowhere to be found. But on the ancient bell, a new set of glowing symbols had appeared marking the date and time of her disappearance. And that night, the villagers swore they could hear faint, ghostly footsteps ringing from the bell tower, as if someone or something was still there.